Imagine you show up for work. You show up for work and you go, let's prep for a bowl game December 31st, the Citrus Bowl. So you start your day getting ready for the Citrus Bowl. You end your day in jail. You end your day losing your job. That's what happened at Michigan yesterday with Sherrone Moore.
The following is a presentation of Hobson Media. Woohoo!
Who's got it better than us?
This is the Church Pew Sports Podcast, featuring a group of pastors delivering bombastic takes on sports, life, and faith.
We're going to attack this day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Take a knee.
Man, it's hard to break us now. It's hard to break us. As a matter of fact, you ain't going to do it.
Lend an ear.
These are some of the best questions I've had. I have to tell you that straight up.
As the Church Pew Sports Podcast begins.
We were all supposed to be here together, man. We're destined for this. Just stay the course.
Give each other a high five.
Yeah, we probably aren't handing out a lot of high fives today in the Michigan fandom world, and the opening words of who's got it better than us. The answer might just be a lot of people at this particular juncture. As we welcome you into another episode of Church Pew Sports, thank you for joining us, and I should give you a little heads up at the beginning of the show. Today's episode is really going to be two completely different episodes. Like the first half, we're going to deal with the Sherrone Moore Michigan mess, and then we're going to turn the corner and have a lot of fun. So if you're sitting here right now and you're thinking, I don't want to hear another word about that Sherrone Moore mess, just fast forward like 30 minutes and you'll be happy. It'll take you into a much better place, but we've got to deal with what's in the news. We've got to deal with these things that do matter, and so we're glad to have you with us for that part. Bill Hobson here, along with Pastor Paul Miller and David Collins. And as we come into this, we come into it assuming that the majority of the people in our audience have some inkling of what has transpired in the world of former Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore. David, off air just a moment ago, you put this in summation form by saying it's the, how'd you say it?
I don't remember. You just put me on the spot.
The fall from grace?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's rare in sports, in life, for like this big of a fall from grace, like so quickly, like the fashion that all this happened and how it came out and how quickly all the news came out and the rumors were spinning. And it was, I mean, unfathomable in a lot of ways.
I think I'm going to open things up by letting Rich Eisen give my statement.
I am gutted. I am shocked. I'm dismayed. I'm depressed. I'm disgusted. Every single emotion that you think I would have, I've got. I didn't see it in Sherrone Moore. When I've met him, he's been nothing but great to me, nothing but great to my family. And right now, I go back and forth between, my gosh, the football aspect of it, but more importantly, the personal aspect of it. Because right now, families and lives are shattered. And thank goodness no lives have been lost. I don't know what was going on with Sherrone Moore in his mind that was going down after. Clearly, he had received the news and brought it back home that he was no longer the head coach of the University of Michigan football program, and the reasons why, and everything that spiraled out of control. I think of his wife. I think of his 3 daughters. I think of him. I think of the young lady that's involved and everything that must be going on in her life and the choices that she might be lamenting right now. All I know is, speaking on behalf, if I may, of the Michigan alumni base, this is terrible. This is something that I don't ever want to hear about any program or any coach or any family, let alone the one that I hold so near and dear. And if this is all in fact true, it is something that I don't know how we move on. And the only way that it can move on is a full accounting of what's gone down.
I don't think I could have scripted my response a whole lot better than that. So, Paul Miller, welcome in. Good to see you. And here we go, man. What are your thoughts?
Wow, like my thoughts are, I'm just sad.
Yeah.
I think that's the main emotion. Like they're like even like the, oh good, this is gonna hurt the football side of things, which as an Ohio State fan, you would think that would like creep into my brain like it is into a lot of people's, but no, not really. That hasn't been how I reacted to this. And the first thing I wanted to do was see if there was any way to figure out what actually happened. We still don't know everything. I don't think that actually happened. It's going to, and truth is going to continue to trickle out for a while, I think, but I'm just bummed. Bill, I was in the car, like I was leaving the office, and I got the text from somebody sending me a tweet of the news. And so I called you from the car, and I was just like, whoa, are you okay? Because my first thing was, who are my friends that are big time Michigan fans that are, this is going to be a gut punch. And I just wanted to say, hi, how are you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just a couple of hours before we began this recording, and by the way, we're recording Friday afternoon. We started about 4 o'clock Eastern. About 2.5 hours ago was the actual arraignment in a Washtenaw County courtroom for Sherrone Moore, who was brought into that arraignment via video from the jail, where he's still, as far as we know, being held. He's supposed to get out on bail here at some point. And so this, I don't know, David, you saw the picture too. I think the image of him in the white prisoner jumpsuity kind of a thing, looking just absolutely haggard, as you might expect after spending a couple days in jail, was pretty darn powerful. And it's tempting for a moment to look at a picture like that and think, that's the victim. Well, that's not the victim. Sherrone Moore's not the victim in all of this. Here's Ryan Clark, who sometimes I enjoy, sometimes I don't, from ESPN.
I think from the Sherrone Moore point of view, you have to look at his failures as well. He failed, if these things are true, he failed his family. Yep. He failed the young men he was in charge of leading and coaching. And he also failed a community of coaches who would love to follow him to get an opportunity to coach at a historically great university like a Michigan, to be amongst the names of the Yost and the Schembechlers and the Lloyd Carrs. That was the opportunity that he had that he failed at. And we also have to think about this young lady who was a subordinate and what these accusations or what these actions will do to her for the rest of her life.
Yeah, so, David, when you're in your texting threads with your friends and some of your family members, what's the prevailing sentiment here now? I'd guess about 48 hours since the initial mushroom cloud exploded.
Yeah, honestly, it's still shock. It's still, that the news keeps coming out and everything you hear makes the whole situation sound and feel heavier and worse. And there's been no levity, there's been no joking, no laughing about whatever. It's like, was a couple weeks ago I came on here, my only discontent was how he coached in the game against Ohio State. And it's like, all that stuff is to the side because you're talking about actual people here. You're talking about the fallout. And kind of what Rich Eisen said is, it's like, I didn't go to Michigan. I'm a Michigan fan. I've been my whole life. But so for me, my attachment to anything Michigan related has been the athletics, the sports, Michigan basketball, Michigan football. And so it's hard for my mind not to immediately jump to, well, what do we do here? What coach do we bring in? What happens? But the reality is you have to take into account the details that you hear about what happened in the fallout of this situation. Like, people's lives were at risk. Like, it could have been a lot worse. So for me, super thankful that that's not part of this story. But at the same time, how do you pick up the pieces if you're somebody that is actually directly affected by what's going on? So I think a lot of the conversation that's been going on has simply been like I said, shock. Just let's get the information. Let's find out what happened. Let's let the thing play out a little bit before we start jumping to conclusions. Because there was so much false information being passed around on, whatever website you use, social media you use to get your information. There was just all this stuff pouring in. But there's still a lot of questions to ask because there's a lot of people that you can look it up yourself. There's been tweets for a couple months now where people have been suggesting that something was going on there. There've been, I mean, when did certain people know specific things, and why did they not act on them? Like, there just is, there's so much to this that it's still, like, my brain's still buffering on a lot of it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. It's still kind of roiling around. And like I said, just a little bit ago was the arraignment. And in that arraignment, I just watched the video. I was going to pull some audio clips from it, but I just thought that would be overkill. But in the video, the prosecutor from the county, I believe the county, kind of what today's arraignment was about was making sure that Sherrone was either going to be held or would be released on bail, but they had to make sure he wasn't a flight risk. And so as part of that, the state or the county makes the case for what transpired. And it's the first time that we have heard a narrative for his actions after learning of his dismissal. And his actions included, and I don't pretend to have the full scope or the full script, but they included busting into the apartment of the young lady who's involved in all of this and going in there and then grabbing a bunch of, in the words of the prosecutor, butter knives, plural. I don't understand it, but then waving them around, threatening to harm himself and her. At some point, she called the police and then he fled, and it was a while later before they got him in a church parking lot. The irony, in a church parking lot right next to this apartment block. And the more that we hear from the actual police report, the actual record of what transpired, it is very clear that in the aftermath of a jarring revelation of a secret, Sherrone lost it. Okay, so, Paul, you deal with young people, you deal with young pastors a lot. I can't even begin to imagine the levels of learning moments that are coming out of this, or teachable moments that are coming out of this, as you talk about things like integrity, accountability, and the dangers of having secrets that you have fooled yourself into thinking will forever remain secret. Where are you taking all this from a spiritual application leadership standpoint?
Yeah, there's obvious conversation that we as Jesus followers can have about the importance of accountability and relationships and those kind of things. And I think, like, I have some of that chambered for when we get to the 3-minute message at the end of this conversation. The thing for me is when somebody is in a visible career, seat or whatever.
High profile, yeah.
Yeah, you can sometimes, we as fans or whatever, can sometimes assume moral character that just isn't there. Like, you have this thing, you're like, well, he got hired to be the head coach at one of the most prestigious football programs in the country. He's got to have his life in order. Like, you think like that, right? And we just assume those things. And then when it becomes clear that he doesn't, or that he's running without a safety net, or he doesn't have accountability, or he's making decisions that are just wrong and illegal and dangerous and all those type of things. The only reason we have all this outrage about the story is because he's the head coach of Michigan, right? Like, if it was just like a headline in the news that some guy got caught having an affair and lost his mind and threatened his the woman and got arrested for that. Yeah, that happens all the time. And I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying it happens all the time. It's because he's in this public deal. So people who are loyal to the program and follow and are fans of Michigan football or whatever, you feel all the feels, right? You feel let down. You feel angry. You feel like you've just tarnished the reputation of something that I don't want to see get tarnished, and all of that stuff kind of gets jumbled up in it. And so I feel like what we all need to do in moments like this is like remind each other that, yeah, there's like one guy who lived a life that we should follow and emulate, and was always above reproach at all times. And he's our leader. His name is Jesus, right? And all of us who are in leadership roles need to make sure we have the safeguards around us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're just, I'm just one dumb decision away from throwing away a bunch of things that are great in my life too, because I make a stupid decision, right? So all of that gets mixed up in your mind all at once, which is what makes it so hard.
Yeah, from a football standpoint, probably the most famous alum from Liberty University is Benjamin Watson. And he said in a tweet, my college head coach, and I don't know who his head coach was at school, but had a personal rule that he would never be alone with a woman, not even in an elevator. Some people thought it was weird, unnecessary, overly pious. He considered it a guardrail for himself to honor his wife, his faith, and his responsibility to everyone in the building. As a college athlete, I did not fully understand. As a grown man, I get it, and I'm grateful. I also remember the kind of the grief that our former vice president took, Mike Pence, because he had similar guardrails up in his life. And I'm not here to suggest that there's a one-size-fits-all prescription for everybody, but to see intentional safeguards in place is so wise. It's just wise, right?
Yeah, like why would you live your life right at the edge of whatever cliff?
Yeah.
Like back up from the cliff. We have those guardrails in place at the EFCA. I've had it every church I've ever worked at. That's been a thing where it's just like, don't travel to and from meetings. I never have a one-on-one meeting with a woman except for in a public place. Like I'll meet you at Starbucks and we'll have the conversation in public and then we'll drive separate cars kind of thing. There's good reasons for that stuff because you're fleeing the appearance of evil, much less the evil itself, right? So just back up from the edge of the cliff because we're all one bad moment away from throwing a whole bunch of things away.
Yeah, sliding right off the edge. So we made this very clear at the outset that the status of a football program or a university are not the lead storylines for this Sherrone Moore mess, that the lives impacted, that the families impacted, that's the big headline. But we are a sports podcast, so let's spend a couple minutes talking about the potential impact on a program. So David, one of the initial reactions from the sports world in general was that Michigan had to have known all of this and they were covering it up until this young lady forced the issue by reporting and showing, I guess, the evidence from the text messages and things from a long-time relationship with Sherrone. Do you buy into that? Do you think that Ward Manuel, for instance, was intentionally holding on to all of this to wait until, for some reason now, to blow it all up?
I don't want to speculate on what Ward's intentions were or what he knew specifically, but my understanding from everything I've read, everything I've looked at, it has appeared, and you can go and, like I said, look at old tweets and different things that this had been speculation for some time that there was something going on. So my guess is whether or not they had an inclination that there was some wrongdoing here or something inappropriate here. My guess is that there probably was. But again, you're not going to make some kind of major move or something without evidence. And from what I've been gathering is that the actual evidence came forth a few days before the firing actually took place. And if that's the case, I have a lot of questions. Waiting till after National Signing Day to actually do the firing, not having like a regular firing where there's HR talk to and all this stuff and just like dropping kind of a bomb. Like there are a lot of questions that need to be answered with the leadership of the school. And this goes beyond the Ward Manuel situation. I believe seven coaches since Jim Harbaugh has been at Michigan. 7 different coaches have been arrested. Wow. And then that doesn't include Connor Stallions, who wasn't arrested for any illegal wrongdoing, maybe college football illegal, but not actually illegal. And there was another guy that got dismissed for some poor behavior, but there was no arrest there. It's like sometimes you have to take a look at your own administration and your own leadership and ask yourself the question, like, why is this a culture that is allowing these types of things happen? You can't have any idea that letting Sherrone Moore go was going to lead to breaking into houses and threatening to kill people. Like, you could not have known that. Right. That's fine. But I mean, there seems to be something, and there is a common denominator throughout a lot of this, and that's the person who's running the athletic department that I know that Michigan just had a meeting to assess whether the administration just had a meeting to assess whether or not he was going to maintain his role. And as of now, he has maintained that role. But there's a lot of, again, like I said, my brain's still buffering on a lot of this. There's a lot of questions to be asked about it, but you've got to wonder what is the common denominator for why it seems as though this is a program that's in a bit of leadership disarray.
Yeah, let me play a quick soundbite, and then I'm going to ask Paul for a comparative spin on this, relating this situation to perhaps one that would occur in a church setting. But first, here's Andy Staples talking about whether or not Michigan should be looked at for covering this up.
I think if this had been done for the most convenient reasons, like you decided Sherrone Moore wasn't a coach you wanted to keep and you wanted an excuse to fire him for free, you would have done that about 2 weeks ago, because then you could have had a new coach in place before National Signing Day, before all the Wolves come in. The transfer portal opens on January 2nd. So now they're in a situation where they've got to hire a coach. Maybe they hire one in the next week or so. You probably do need to hire one by the time the transfer portal opens, but it's terribly inconvenient. So I would shy away from the conspiracy theory that they did this out of convenience because they decided he wasn't good enough and they wanted to get rid of him for free. I think if that was the decision, they would have fired him a couple weeks ago. I'm guessing they were intending to keep Sherrone Moore, and then something changed.
Clearly something did. And my only thought, David, to follow up on yours, is that the signing day thing is a big deal, but there are rules in place that allow those kids to renege on the signing if they feel so led. So, Paul, go ahead and make your comment, then I have a question for you.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a different take. I actually don't think the signing day deal is as big a thing as it would have been in years past.
Yeah.
The rule used to be, if there was a change at the head coach position, then the portal opens for your team, your entire roster, for 30 days immediately, right? That's not the case anymore. Right. Now it's, if I understand it correctly, it's the school has 5 days after they make their replacement hire. And then there's a shortened portal window where players can make their decisions, but at least then the players have a chance to see, kind of wait and see who the school hires to replace and everything else. I actually think that's better. And the fact that the transfer portal date of January 2 is coming up regardless, if anybody wanted to bail for whatever reason, that date's coming for every college football player in the country, right? So yeah. I actually don't think it's as big of a deal as it might have been in years past.
No, and I do agree with that. However, there are some kids who are coming to the school and they wanted to go to another school who then got somebody else to fill a position that they might be in, and some scholarships have already been used for other players that might potentially keep them. It's just, you're right, it's not as bad, and I'm thankful, and I've been the guy on the front line saying this needs to change for years. So I'm thankful that they at least have that option. But it does cause a lot of complications for a lot of people that weren't, strictly involved with what this situation has become.
Yeah, and there's been, like you see in the Twitter stream now, you see, such and such player has been released from their NLI from Michigan. I actually am like, well, that's right. That's well done, Michigan. This kid changed his mind because whatever percentage of his decision to commit to Michigan was because of who the head coach was. So it seems as though they're letting kids make their decisions, and it is wildly inconvenient. And you're right. It's such a wild, wild west when it comes to recruiting. There's no winners in this whole scenario. Right. Everyone loses.
Yeah. And what people don't often realize is that a lot of the kids choose schools based on specific position coaches that recruited them as well. A running backs coach or something. So you don't know if the new guy is going to keep the guy that's the reason you went. So it causes all sorts of chaos. And this is where, it's the whole Scripture talks about it all the time. These unintended consequences of you make these poor decisions, and all of a sudden the lives of so many people are affected. But the beautiful thing is that there is a way for it to be redeemed and used for good, no matter what situation occurs. And part of me, and I don't know Sherrone Moore, I don't know if he's a religious person, but part of me wonders if him being found in a church parking lot wasn't him like going to the one place he thought might be somewhere that he could find some redemption for himself in his heart. Who knows? I don't know, but I mean, there's a lot to be said about this story, and we'll know a lot more information in the coming weeks, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a book when John Bacon eventually writes it. I texted him last night and I told him, I'm sure he's literally out doing a tour for his Edmund Fitzgerald book, which is number 6 on the New York Times bestseller list. And then this story hits while he's on a book tour, and he's like, I don't know which way is up right now. Guarantee you that's coming at some point, because this is an historically bizarre turn of events. And Paul, the question that I've had chambered for you for the last couple of minutes is kind of connecting this saga to maybe a church comparison. So Michigan, let's err on the side of optimism. They weren't hiding it, they weren't sitting on it, but they did know that there was some cloud in the air. There was some smoke around this because of what David mentioned. It's been rumored on social media. Rich Eisen says on his show, I've been hearing about this for several weeks now, and
it's called the worst kept secret right
correct,
now.
Correct.
Like Ohio State fans knew it, Michigan State fans seem to know it.
Yep. So let's just say that in the last 48 hours, the proof came in. However it did, whether it was from the young lady or some other DoorDash driver or whatever happened.
Yeah.
And that forces Michigan's hand to take action. In the wisdom of a church setting, let's just, and I don't want to just hypothetically, you have leader A and subordinate B. Perhaps it's a executive assistant to whatever it is, and concerns are presented. And you're the executive pastor, or you're the senior pastor, a position you're obviously you've had these situations before. Are you going to say to the two parties involved after they say there's nothing here, and continually you're getting feedback from people who say there's something there, are you just going to wait until evidence comes in, or are you going to in some way, shape, or form change the working environment so that those two people don't have so much contact with each other? You don't have to fire anybody if you're not ready to do that, but aren't you going to reassign, or aren't you going to do something to change the status quo that has led to at least these rumors coming in? How do you deal with it?
Well, yeah, for sure. Like for me, it would be whenever somebody would come to me and say, hey, this or that happened or whatever, and then somebody else gives a different version. I only knew one thing to do. I was like, get them both in a room and say, okay, look at each other. And we're going to talk until we figure out which one of you is telling the truth, kind of thing. Right. So I would probably not dawdle in my efforts to get to the bottom of whatever and to the truth. But for sure, we would make changes or hopefully, ideally, would already have guardrails in place, which has been true at every church I've ever worked at, actually, but to prevent even the appearance of indiscretion like this. But the thing is, you can do all those things and you can take all those steps, and people are still going to be people. I just don't think you do anybody any favors if you wait, or if you, I don't even know how I would say it. If you have a responsibility to the person, to shepherd the person. Like Michigan has some level of responsibility to try and help Sherrone Moore get his life together, some level. But you also got to, like in a church, you also got to protect the flock. And that's a thing. And so it's like the Board of Regents or whatever from the University of Michigan. There's some real lives and individuals and people here that have some picking up the pieces to do, and they should go over the top in their efforts to help with that, whatever that means. Getting counseling, support networks, all that kind of stuff. And
on both sides, by the way,
Yes.
on all parties concerned.
Yeah, and you as quickly as possible come out and make a statement to the public, to the fan base or whatever, that says, here's what's going on and here's all you need to know. Like if I'm the AD and this is all going down and we had to fire Sherrone Moore, I'm on the microphone almost immediately having a press conference and I'm saying, you know what? This is messed up and there's some bad things that happen and you don't need to know more than that. So I'm not going to tell you more than that. Say a prayer for the people that are involved and he's no longer the coach. And here are the things we're going to do moving forward. As clear and as direct and as immediate as you possibly can. That's one of the things that's a real head scratcher for me in this whole Michigan thing is where have they been?
The leadership, the vacuum
makes you
of
wonder what else they're hiding.
Yeah, the leadership vacuum is just awful.
But let me also say that there's legal implications to a lot of this. So so Ward may have been told, don't say anything until we can have our talk with the administration and all that stuff. That's what kind of confuses it. It might not be that they didn't want to get out in front of it or say something about it, or like you just said, hey, here's what happened. He's fired. There's issues going on. Pray for it. But like even anything like that in a legal setting could be admitting fault in some regard. So I kind of understand why they've been quiet about it, because again, there's so much information that's still coming out. And I think that there's probably some clamps on what they are and aren't allowed to even mention about the whole situation.
Yeah. Right. And I don't pretend to know all of that stuff, but what I do know is I'd be knocking on some doors going, hey, Board of Regents, is it time for us to get on a microphone yet? Because the longer we wait, the more it looks like we're trying to hide something.
Yeah, I agree.
It's already a colossal story.
There's less like there's with a church setting too, there's more of a inherently moral obligation for some of that. Whereas in a corporate setting, which is essentially what Michigan is, or any college is, there's a lot of layers of HR that have to be worked through before a lot of that stuff can even be mentioned. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it does seem like somebody should get out there and say something.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right as well, bro. I can't expect my football program to act like a church.
Right. And certainly not at the People's Republic of Ann Arbor and the University of Michigan. It is definitely big business, so can't argue with that. Well, hey, we promised all of you as listeners that this show was going to be divided into two parts. There certainly will be lots more conversation about the fallout from the Moore mess in the days ahead, because it's not done yet. And as David said, this story is still unfolding. So we will leave that and turn the corner here and welcome in a couple of our other esteemed guests. I know David's got to head out, so we're going to swap out David and welcome in a couple of folks who, well, one has some gloating that she's entitled to do as the winner of the Church Pew Sports Pick'em season-long contest. So Kip Rogers is joining us from where? Where are you, Kip? Except other than in front of Snoopy's doghouse in the Zoom window.
Yes, Frisco, Texas.
She's in Frisco wearing her Buckeye colors. Scott Tinman finished at the opposite end of the standings in the Church Pew Sports Pick'em, but because he's also a Buckeye fan, man, if I look in this Zoom window right now, Paul, I got 4 windows and 3 of them are wearing scarlet and gray. I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed here. Scott, how are you?
Doing well, coming from the Buckeye State even. So
are you really? Yeah. Well, we put this off for a couple of weeks. I owe you all a little introduction. So here is, to set the scene for a period of Buckeye gloating, here is a magic moment from their win in the game.
Saying, winds up.
That's Jeremiah Smith's touchdown that wasn't, but it still counted on the board, and it wouldn't have made a difference in the game. We got bullied, pummeled, beaten severely, and yet, we don't have to comment on this anymore, but yet, in the aftermath of what's transpired, that game was a highlight for us in the last couple of weeks. So, Paul, I'll let you lead the victory parade.
Yeah, I just think it was like discretion and wisdom on the part of us who run this podcast to push this conversation back to after the Big Ten title game, because it would have been way worse for you, Bill, if this had happened before the Indiana game. I want to hear from Kip and Scott because of I have my own thoughts on why the win over Michigan was great and everything else, but it took me all of like 3 hours to stop thinking about that and start thinking about what was coming. Which tells me it's not as important as it once was. And that's not like trying to demean Michigan and say you're the little brother or whatever. I just think things are shifting in priorities. So Kip, we'll let you lead out and then we'll just kind of free form the conversation from there.
Well, I will say, like, I was in Columbus with my family during the game, had the whole family decked out and the party going on. And it was sweet because the last 4 years, a year ago, my son and I showed up at the airport after the game, and it was like everybody was continuing to be in mourning, this year after year beating. So I would have to say at least that Saturday was a sweet victory. But you're right.
We call those the wonder years, by the way. We love those years.
The wonder years. I like that. Yes. We're still wondering how that happened.
So were we.
It's like, wait, what? They were ranked what? And what?
We beat you with no quarterback, and then we lost to you with a good quarterback. So
right. I think since winning the Natty, that's now the expectation. It's no longer Michigan. It's now the Natty. And so, quickly the attention is turning to that. And I think with all the changes in college football, and now that they're Indiana, Texas Tech, some of these other teams that are now buying their way to the top, much like Ohio State was already doing, it's more about that than the rivalries, which is really sad because I would love to see college football still matter. And it's, it's becoming the professional league that it is now.
Yeah, let me play a quick soundbite for you to follow up on that and ask all three of you if you agree with this statement from Scott Frost, the Central Florida coach, former Nebraska quarterback.
It's broken. College football's broken. I don't know if you'll get that honest answer from everyone, but everyone would agree if they were honest. You just got to try to play the game as best you can.
And then he goes on to talk about just what you mentioned, which is the buying of rosters. And, certainly education's not in the picture anymore. Nobody cares about that part. Is it broken? Scott?
I think it is. I think it is broken. I think it is athlete-student now instead of student-athlete. And especially when you look at what teams are, NIL money and all the different ways. Now you can actually pay them at the front door instead of the back door. And we all knew that it was happening with some of the blue bloods before, but now you actually, hey, it's legal. I don't have to hide this. And so now you have teams, and you look at the college football schedule, their calendar, and we've experienced that here in the last few weeks of the coaching carousel and who's going to go where. And we didn't make it into the college football playoffs, so we're not even going to take a bowl game anymore. I think that was a team that wishes that they were in there, right? Notre Dame. And so, it is totally broken. I think he's right on that.
Paul, I know that you are here ostensibly for the next couple minutes to celebrate the excellence of OSU, and I got to give it to you. You guys are great, a great team. And I am a fan, even when it sticks in my craw when my team is on the receiving end of brilliance. I'm a fan of effective trolling. So the Buckeyes are in Ann Arbor. There's the snowfall. And for us, we're flashing back to 21 when the snow was falling, and it was the first time that we kind of set things straight and began the run. But this 2025 edition of the game, with the snow falling gently, and the Buckeyes are just rolling over us like just bullies. Hidden in the corner of the end zone during a TV timeout is this ridiculous, cartoonish, oversized cranium of Brutus the Buckeye, who is shuffling his feet through the snow to cross out the block M in the corner of the end zone, and then he script writes Ohio with nobody stopping. I don't know if they weren't noticing it or what, but obviously the cameras caught it. And I got to tell you, that's one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. I mean, you talk about flat out brilliant trolling. That's pretty good. So, Paul, I want to hear from your assembled, esteemed panel where they rank these things, these in order of priority, right? So, beating that team up north, winning the Big Ten, winning the Natty. 1, 2, 3. What's the order of priority here?
Okay, yeah, I'll go. For me, it's just like Kip said, it's the Natty first. That's the most important thing. I would say beating the team up north is second, and winning the Big Ten is third. And I think that played out for Ohio State, or that's playing out for Ohio State this year. If you'd asked me before Thanksgiving, if you had to choose between winning the Big Ten title and beating Michigan, I would have chosen beat Michigan. And then I would have said, I can donate the Big Ten championship to somebody else because we got a bigger trophy to chase a couple weeks later. I do think we should acknowledge the graduate level trolling that Brutus did. So thank you for saying that, Bill. That's my ranking of those things. What about you guys?
Scott?
Ditto. Oh, sorry.
You're going the same way? Scott, what's your order?
Yeah, I would go the same way. It's the national championship and the potential of a back-to-back national championship, I think, this year is in play. Beating Michigan, obviously, is going to be the second. And the third one, the Big Ten championship, if we're really honest with one another, I mean, that is just there because all these other conferences had it when they started the playoff. And it's a made-up championship because for how many years did we not have a Big Ten championship game? And I think for this year, I think that there were things held to the vest of the coaches and saying, hey, we're going to roll out this part of the playbook. And if this is good enough to win, great. If not, we still got a national championship in a couple of weeks, and we don't want to tip our hat to other people.
Well, and isn't it also, since the Big Ten is no longer the Big Ten, right? We got too many teams to contend with, and we can't play each other like we would whoever, we were playing all the teams before, and now we're not. So what do you do with that? So
I think you're going to see the Big Ten hold its own mini tournament moving forward. It's more money, it's more eyeballs. It can shorten the regular season by a week. But just as Kip said, if you're not going to play everybody, then how do you gauge who the conference champion is in one game? So I think you're going to see the top 4 teams play off. Granted, it will interfere with studying for finals, which I know is super important to everybody in the student-athlete world. But I think that's where we're headed. I don't know, Paul.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys caught this. Ryan Day was in a presser like yesterday, I think it was, and they asked him about the schedule and how they're using their time because they have a bye, right? And so it's not till the end of December that they play their first playoff game. And his answer was really funny. I don't think he meant to do it. He's like, yeah, we got to do this, and we got to do this, and we got to do this as a team. And then they need a couple hours over here to take their finals, It was kind of just like,
right, a couple hours.
Okay. I don't think he meant for it to come across the way that it did. I also think that's why Tony Petitti is pushing so hard for all these auto bids in a restructured CFP, because I do think it would be pretty phenomenal if there was a conference championship weekend. There was like a play-in weekend, and the top 2 teams in the Big Ten played each other, and the third played the 6th seed or something like that, or the 4th played the 5th or something. Then you would go into that weekend, and there'd be 5 or 6 teams in the Big Ten that had a meaningful game to play, and they would generate a ton of revenue. And that would actually be an interesting way to end the season, way better than a pseudo Big Ten title.
I hearken back to the words of a famed former Buckeye quarterback who I believe said, "I ain't here to play no school."
Yeah. So
that was before NIL, by the way, that statement was made. So it's gotten even more pronounced these days. So in closing, is there anything else that Buckeye Nation would like to say here on Church Pew Sports before we start talking about what probably is the movie of the year?
We have the best damn band in the land.
In the land.
And that may be what keeps college football, are the marching bands.
That's a good word.
Yeah, that's good. Scott?
We have the most creative mascot that can troll well.
Well,
that's good. My parting shot or my last comment would be, I think real Ohio State fans, and I think there's 2 of them with us on the call here, Bill, would wish Michigan Godspeed in sorting out the junk that's going on.
Yeah.
Like, we want Michigan to right the ship and purge whatever it is that they got to purge, like bleed that out so that they can come back to acting and playing and competing like the blue blood program that they are, because that's better for everybody if that's the case.
You know what's interesting, and I'll just make a very short statement, just so Scott and Kip know. We told people at the beginning of the podcast that if they did not want to hear another syllable about Sherrone Moore in Michigan, just to fast forward 30 minutes, because that's when you folks joined us. So I'll keep this very, very brief. There are not very many Michigan fans from a standpoint of football coaches who are going to miss Sherrone Moore. None of us are in favor of what has transpired, but he will not be fought for. Let's put it that way. It's not going to be a campaign to keep him around. And so let us see what happens next. Okay, speaking of what happens next.
Hallmark and the NFL are back on the field with a new holiday matchup. Whoa. 2 lifelong friends search for a secret Santa.
With today's technology, this is going to be a piece of cake. We can't track this. But today's technology.
But what they uncover changes the game.
Your eyes light up when you talk about him.
You should just tell her how you feel.
Holiday Touchdown, a Bills love story.
I just need to take a shower already. All right, so Paul, set the scene for the listeners who are still with us and are wondering why we just played that movie trailer.
So we have, as you referred to earlier, Bill, we have this season-long college football pick'em competition. This year, I think we had 9 semi-regulars from the podcast who competed, picking games every week and everything else. And the consequence for the person who finished last was they had to watch the Buffalo Bills Hallmark Christmas movie. Yes, that's actually a thing. And then they had to come on the podcast and give a review to, in fact, verify that they watched the entire movie. So Scott Tinman won that honor. So I'm anxious
lost
to
that
hear.
honor, basically.
Yeah, he fought for it. I'm anxious to hear your thoughts, Scott. And Kip, I am really appreciative of you being gracious enough to say, I actually watched the movie. I'll come on and talk about it as well.
Yeah, okay, hang on. Before we get to Scott's report, I have questions to ask. First of all, Kip won the season-long competition.
A rookie won.
The rookie won, which stands to reason since you're climbing in the heads of all these players, and you can kind of like Oz Perlman, you can see into the minds of athletes. So it's kind of an unfair advantage. But you won, and you chose to watch this movie twice. This unique. I'm trying to save my descriptors.
I'll give my review after Scott does.
All right, Scott, this movie is full of Bills stars. It was a huge news story in Buffalo when it was being produced.
Hallmark sharing this video of their starting lineup. The cast includes a few familiar actors and actresses, but you'll definitely recognize these names. Bills head coach Sean McDermott, offensive lineman Deion Dawkins, safety Damar Hamlin, tight end Dawson Knox, and Bills legends Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, Steve Tasker, along with thousands of our Western New York neighbors.
All right, so with that cast of all-stars, Scott, the floor is yours. What is the Bills Hallmark movie love story all about?
I do have to say I was also a rookie, and some would say I won in some ways, but I feel like Paul set me up.
What ways did you win?
I the 1 week that I actually had the same picks as Kip, she lost, and I did not do well. And so there was anything that I could do to get out of this. And I mean, I was still over 500. I just want that to be known.
Yeah.
But I lost. It's a very competitive group.
This isn't the AFC South, man.
Yeah. And I will say that I am very thankful for YouTube TV and the ability to record and then watch it in less time than I didn't waste 2 hours of my life, only about 1 hour of my life.
Because of commercials? You're skipping commercials? Is that what you're saying?
Because, because you could skip right through the commercials.
Yeah.
And so I will say that I don't think that there's any Bills player that is in that cast that has to worry about Hollywood calling them and saying, hey, we saw you and we think that you would be perfect for another part. I do think it was kind of cool at the end that Jim Kelly is in there throwing a touchdown pass. I think that was a nice touch with the whole Jim Kelly story, and then being able to kind of get a little sneak peek at what the Bills Stadium kind of looks like as it's being constructed. But besides those highlights, it's the typical cheesy, every Hallmark movie has the same plot and cast of characters. Now, I will say, I did notice that Michael J. Fox's wife is in the movie. And so there were some high-level actors that probably got a really easy payday.
By the way, Scott, just out of curiosity, because it was in partnership with the NFL, did they use any actual game footage? Because sometimes these kind of movies recreate with generic mascots and horrible action where the final 3 seconds takes 4 minutes, that kind of a thing. Was there game footage in any of this?
Yeah, I think there was when they were at the stadium and they'd go to the crowd and then and then there were a couple plays, and I do think, man, if this is what Bills fans, I don't think that they really showed true what the Bills Mafia is all about.
Not on Hallmark, no.
No.
No chance.
It was the G-rated.
Nobody dove off of a RV onto a folding table with their elbow breaking?
No, I did not see that.
Oh, then it's not. What are they doing?
That would have made me want to watch, actually.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, Kip, twice? I mean, really? Twice?
Well, okay. My biological gender may be being revealed here, but yes, I'm a partaker of the Hallmark Channel. And I will have to say, like, a lot of them are like, ugh, but this one actually had some redeeming qualities in it. For example, at the very beginning, that girl, while she's on a date, like, that was me. That would have been me at the very beginning. And I thought, it's starting and I'm thinking, oh, that's me.
What do you mean?
Character in this movie.
You seem to think we know what you're talking about. What do you mean?
I know what she's talking about.
What is she talking about?
There's a single gal who's on a date and the date could care less. The male character could care less about football. And she's like watching the game out of the corner of her eye. And, she's more interested in that than the guy talking to her. And I'm like, yeah, that was me. That was me. Now, I will say the mystery involved was good. And you didn't have just one love story. You had two love stories. in this movie. So it's a double bonus. And you have football in it. So come on.
Yeah.
How could you not love and football? Family, faith, football, it's all in it.
Wow. Did the romantic theme play out like you thought it might? It's rare at the end of a Hallmark movie for the two protagonists to actually find true love. Did that happen here?
Every love story at the very beginning, you know how it's going to end.
What?
And you're waiting for two things to happen. The moment where they're about to kiss and it gets interrupted in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, they get the kiss. So in this case, you got not just one kiss, but you got two.
Okay, so Paul, what do you predict was the interrupting moment that happens as part of the formula? I have my own theories that traces to somehow Jim Kelly throwing a football in the middle of the moment. But what do you think happened to interrupt the first round of the near rendezvous?
You know, based on my level of experience with Hallmark movies, I have no idea.
Or a wolf somehow just ran out of the snow. I don't know.
Something.
Yeah, Kip, what was the interrupter?
Family.
It's always something. If it's not one
Always
thing, it's
family.
another.
They come out at the wrong moment. They interrupt the intimate, I'm about to go in, and then family shows up and interrupts it.
Scott, was there a moment in this movie that did not go the way you thought it was going to go?
No. It's so predictable. I mean, and I will say, too, I did watch this without my wife present.
Why?
Was that her preference?
Yeah, did she run out of the room?
Wow.
Because I do not want her to know that I actually, on purpose, watched a Hallmark Christmas movie.
For fear that it might drag you into more of them?
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
good
I
call.
waited till she went to bed at night and did my penance of the hour long of wasting my life to watch this. And I know she's not going to watch this podcast, so I'm safe.
Paul, make sure that Mrs. Tinman gets a hold of the link to this podcast, at least the end of it, please.
This might be important.
And we're going to sign them up for the Hallmark Channel if they're not already.
Yeah, that's a good call. It probably should just
Well, it
be
is
part.
better than the Chiefs one, I will say.
Oh, so step forward.
The Bills one is better than the Chiefs one. Yeah.
That's a high bar to clear.
Scott,
I'm going to trust you on that one.
Scott, what were the chances, Scott, that you also were going to give it a second watch?
Not zilch.
Okay, so Kip, if you're working for the Hallmark Channel and you want people before the end of the year to take in this movie, what's your final pitch for this masterpiece?
Look, 'tis the season, and if you what is the saying that goes happy wife, happy life? You know, if you gotta tolerate one, this is the one to pick, especially if you're the husband, because of the mystery, right? It's a little bit of action mystery in there. You got the professional football players. I mean, Damar Hamlin, come on, that's the feel good part of it.
What's
and
the
his
mystery?
Story.
What's the mystery that they're trying to solve?
Jim Kelly. The mystery in the movie is trying to solve like a 50-year mystery of who was giving a Christmas present every year. So you were trying to find who this individual is. And so two people are trying to figure out this mystery of who's giving these anonymous gifts and have been doing so for 50 years.
And now, Paul, for the ultimate test of Scott Tinman, to see if he really did watch all the way through this thing. Scott, who was giving the gifts?
Oh, it was the high school sweetheart.
Not Jim Kelly? Not Thurman Thomas?
Nope.
Not Damar Hamlin?
No.
The high school.
I was kind of assuming, Scott, that Jim Kelly was the high school sweetheart.
Yeah, same.
No. The involvement of the players was very limited.
Yeah.
In this movie.
That's probably smart.
My. Well, Scott, thank you for paying the penalty of somehow being worse at predicting than I am, because I'm really bad at it. So you kept me out of the basement. And Kip, thank you for being willing as the victor in this whole thing to help out those on the other end of the leaderboard. And boy, when you help out, you really help out. You're talking about going overboard. That's pretty impressive. We're going to give the two of you a chance to do a little venting on whatever's bothering you. We did ours in the first half of the show. Here is Scott and Kip's Holy Discontent.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
Scott, why don't you lead us off?
All right. I know that on this podcast, NBA is not talked quite as much about, but my holy discontent is twofold with the NBA. One, load management. What is that? And why in the heck are we doing an in-season tournament?
I don't know.
That does not matter except to a guy named LeBron so that he could get another championship to brag about and think that he is the GOAT, because Michael Jordan never got one of those. I just don't get it. It's like this week, there's like no NBA on when there should be NBA games on, and playing on a special court that is an ice rink for some people, and risking injury, which will then go on to, we need to sit players in back-to-back games. Load management wasn't a thing of the 80s, and that's when 80s, 90s, that's when basketball was good. And so my holy discontent are those two things to the NBA. Adam Silver, fix it.
Yeah, well said. I texted a friend of mine who is a diehard NBA fan, watches all of it, is a big Pistons fan, and I said, I haven't heard a score from the Pistons in like 4 days. He goes, yeah, because they got eliminated from that tournament, so they don't play for the entire week. I said, so if you lose in the meaningless tournament, you get a bye and you just get vacation? He goes, yeah, I guess you get a week off. I'm like, this is so backwards. What a remarkable thing. Kip, your holy discontent.
Well, here in Frisco, a great number of soccer fans were waiting Thursday to hear about the FIFA World Cup games and the tickets going on sale and the lottery phase. And here's what happened. They were super excited, and then they saw the pricing and they weren't as excited.
Massive prices.
Yeah, so FIFA hiked, and this is just like category one. I guess there's 4 categories. Category 1 ticket prices went from $410 to $445 per ticket, some up to $700 a ticket. And in some cases, that's an increase of 71% from the last World Cup. And so FIFA promised tickets as low as $60. And like, some people are like, where are these tickets? And so it's, some people have called it astronomical. It's extortion. It's a monumental betrayal, said one person, in terms of the pricing of these World Cup tickets. And I tell you, I got online to get on Cotton Bowl tickets since the Buckeyes are coming here again. And even nosebleed seats were the cheapest I could find were $379 to $410. And wow. I'm like, oh, gosh. So there you go. The world of professional sports.
That is nuts. And they're making it so much more attractive to just go out and buy a good 85-inch TV.
Yeah.
Get some good audio in your house.
Exactly. Have your friends around.
Don't pay $75 to park and $20 bucks for a bottle of water, and just stay home. And they're making it a very compelling case. Those prices are absolutely crazy. All right, Paul, let's fire into our That Guy.
Right now, this minute, today, this week, I am the man!
You or me?
I'll lead us off on this one because Scott actually alluded to the soundbite I want to play for you. That guy this week is Coach Ed Ogeron. He appeared on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, which from a Church Pew Sports standpoint, I can't really recommend that you listen to on a regular basis because it's usually quite profane. His interview with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton was epic. It was about an hour and a half of Coach O telling stories. And whether they're all true or not, I'm not exactly sure, but he is one fantastic storyteller with that Creole kind of an accent that he's got, and his experience in the game of football is just off the charts. And the reason he's that guy is that he finally admitted what we all have known to be the case about the SEC forever.
I say, hey, Coach, you've been out of coaching for a while, and how are you going to adjust that NIL? I said, well, it's a minor adjustment. And they said, what do you mean? I said, back then, we used to walk through the back door to cash. Now we just got to walk through the front door to cash.
And there you have it. He's that guy because we've all been saying it for years. Saban would refuse to admit it, but Coach O just laid it on out there. So, yeah, sometimes it's good to have confirmation. Paul.
That's awesome. We're going to stay with the theme of SEC coaches, right? Like we all watched all of the posturing and everything else when the CFP revealed their 12 that are going to make the playoff. And we'll have a whole episode dedicated just to that coming up here in the next week or so. But I have to give a shout out to Clark Lee, the head coach of Vanderbilt. He wasn't like Sark going out there and being like, yeah, man, we got penalized for losing to Ohio State. No, Sark, you got penalized for losing to Florida. Get it straight. He wasn't like Sark or
Notre Dame.
Or Notre Dame, anybody from Notre Dame, except for maybe Marcus Freeman, actually. I never really heard Freeman say a ton, but there were plenty of other people using all the oxygen on Notre Dame's behalf. When the head coach of Vanderbilt, who was one of the programs that didn't make it, even though they probably could have argued a case, maybe, to be on the periphery, I just love what he had to say, and I think we have it teed up.
We happen to be on the wrong side of that in this moment, but that's no one's fault except for our own. We had our opportunities and we didn't do enough, and so that's we are not victims in this process. Our ownership is in coming up short. I think it's a reminder of how critical every moment is, every snap, every possession. And there's a lot to learn in this season because we want to be back in these moments.
There you go, man. He's the guy I hope Michigan hires.
I would be perfectly fine with that because that would likely mean that he would bring Jerry Kill with him. Yeah. And Killer's a lifelong friend, so that would be really, really cool. Okay, let's close things out with a 3-minute message that I'm quite sure we all will need to hear, especially those of us in Maize and Blue Land.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26, the foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Think about it. Okay. I think I'm just going to start with scripture because there's so much that we could talk about today in the 3-minute message. 1 John 2:16 says, "For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life comes not from the Father, but from the world." Right? We all know, we spent 30 minutes talking about what Sherrone Moore chose to give up so he could have something that he really didn't need to have. And as I was watching all that play out and I was thinking about what I wanted to say in this moment, a song popped in to my mind from way back when I was in high school by a Christian band that was popular back then. The name of the band is the 77s. I'm just going to read a little bit of the lyrics from a song that they put out back in the day that is titled "The Lust, the Flesh, the Eyes, and the Pride of Life." It says, "Well, I see something and I want it, bam, right now, no questions asked. Don't worry how much it costs me now or later. I want it, and I want it fast. I'll go to any length, sacrifice all that I already have and all that I might get just to get something more that I don't need. And Lord, please don't ask me what for. The lust, the flesh, the eyes, and the pride of life drain the life right out of me. Okay, so I'm looking up that song earlier today, and I'm typing the title of it in the Google bar on my laptop because I'm trying to find the lyrics, and up pops what ChatGPT or Google's Verge Gemini or whatever it is, explanation of that verse from 1 John 2. I just want to read this to us, especially to all of us who are looking down our moral noses at Sherrone Moore and questioning how stupid he's been, right? The lust of the flesh refers to inordinate or sinful desires of the physical body and human nature. This includes gluttony, sexual impurity, or any physical pleasure that goes against God's moral law. It's about indulging the senses and the body's appetites in a way that is self-centered and disobedient to God. That's the lust of the flesh. The lust of the eyes pertains to covetousness and materialism, or desiring things simply because they are visually appealing. This can lead to wanting wealth, possessions, or an extravagant lifestyle that one sees and longs to possess, turning material things into idols. And the pride of life describes arrogance, boastfulness, and a pretentious confidence in one's own resources, achievements, or social status. It's the desire for recognition, power, and to make a name for oneself for self-glorification rather than giving glory to God. So what Sherrone Moore did was wrong, obviously. But before we throw stones, let's all look in the mirror, because when we talk about the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, we all have our own temptations that we are faced with, and I would argue probably fall to more often than we care to admit. It doesn't mean that you have to sleep with someone. There's plenty of other ways for you to put something other than Jesus on the throne of your life. So let's not give ourselves away to things just to get something more that we don't need and you can't. There's no logical reason for why we need it other than we want a quick fix, like the 77s were talking about in that song. Let's learn from what we're seeing happen with Sherrone Moore's life right now and the life of everyone that's around him. And let's just figure out where the places where we're living close to the edge of the cliff, and let's take a step back. Yeah. Let's just take a step back, all of us.
Well said. Just before we began to record this afternoon, I put out a short commentary on my golf channel, of all places, talking about the Sherrone story. And I just said, there's nobody on the planet easier to fool than yourself.
Yeah.
And we are seeing the outcome of somebody who thought, I got this all under control, until you don't, and then the world implodes around you, and so many others are impacted by it. So at the end here, in just a second or two, we're going to play you an excerpt from that song. I save it for the very end just in case YouTube doesn't like it and we have to end up cutting it out because of a copyright. I don't know. These days, who knows? But I do want you to know that it's a real song that Paul read the lyrics to, and it's pretty cool that you had that recall from. I mean, the mind is still sharp. That's pretty good stuff. So, Scott,
yeah, I mean, I have no problem admitting that was a song that I played a lot when I was in high school.
Sure.
And the lust and the flesh, the eyes, the pride of life, those were all things.
Did you play that on 8-track? Cassette tape. Nice. Yeah. Anybody still have a cassette player in their world?
Yeah.
Kip does. Scott, no? All right, very good. Hey, Scott and Kip, thank you so much for kind of joining us on the second half of the podcast, and for putting in your time, Scott. That is some punishment. So I think for next year's bracket, you get to be a part of the discussion for what the loser's punishment will be, because you've now paid the price. So just kind of be awesome. Be thinking through some things, and we'll look forward to it. Kip, thank you so much. We'll let you go back now and watch it for a third and fourth time, so you can pick up anything you might have missed.
Probably not.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you all for listening. Look forward to having you with us on the next episode of Church Pew Sports. Make sure you check us out online at churchpewsports.com.